Yes. You look good, Chad.
All right, United States Ryder Cup captain Zach Johnson joins us at the 105th PGA Championship. Zach, welcome to Oak Hill, where you'll be competing in your 20th PGA Championship this week. Last time we were here in 2013, you registered a top 10 finish. What are you expecting from a newly restored East course this week?
Well, I remember, what year was it? 2013, is that right?
Yep.
So I guess 10 years ago. I remember it being an absolutely phenomenal test. I remember leaving here and I'm like, man, that's one of the more proper golf courses I've ever played, meaning you got to have everything, tee to green, short game, etc. And I think based on what I've witnessed so far, that still holds true, even though there are some pretty subtle and significant changes. So this is one of those venues that, with a slight facelift, still has all the characteristics you want in a major championship and in a venue that tests every aspect of one's game. So I do like it. This is kind of the golf that I grew up in. Not fond of the temperatures right now, but I guess for me it's probably better than the opposite of 90 plus. I don't like that either. I'm a pretty picky guy. I like 60 to 75. So, but the weather looks okay, and excited for the week.
Great. And then how are things coming together for the Ryder Cup? Looks like you had some of the players and caddies together for dinner a few weeks ago in Charlotte.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, things are, coming together. I mean, we're still just on the, start line, more or less, the way I see it. Nothing of any significance has been decided or even had the opportunity to, with the exception of a couple vice captains. Just trying to, keep it on their radar. I mean, I think it is, I don't know. Not everybody's voiced it to me, players, but a lot have, that it's a massive priority, which is great. It was for me every 2 years. So that excitement is starting to burn, and I have it. I mean, I'm jacked. I mean, it's one of the things in my profession that I legitimately live for, and knowing that I am a distinct part of it and going to make some key decisions is all that much more gratifying. So I can't wait for September, but at the same time, I am really enjoying the journey and the process as to how things transpire in this captaincy, and sharing it with family and friends.
That's great. Thank you. We'll open up for questions, starting with Jeff on mic 8, followed by Gary on mic 11.
Good morning, Zach.
Good morning.
This is the 20th PGA for you. You've played all the majors a bunch. How do you characterize the PGA?
The actual event? Yeah. I would say geez Louise, if I go through my experiences, this championship is just extremely proper. I feel like we play really good classic golf courses, that have also been nuanced to make it more modern, if that makes sense, which is a hard element, but they've done a great job of that, whether you're talking Hazeltine to Baltusrol to, the Ocean Course. I mean, what I appreciate about it is that they're not afraid to go to every corner of this great nation and showcase certainly the PGA of America and what they're about, but more or less this tournament and the history behind it. It's different every year. Obviously you know what you're going to get at Augusta, and everybody loves it. You know what you're going to get at the Open across the pond. It's links style golf, and everybody loves it. And the U.S. Open has their shtick. This one just really takes on a new being every year, and I love that. The consistency is that there's inconsistency in where we go, and I love that.
Zach, for players who are trying to make the Ryder Cup team, who are non-tour members right now, when it gets right down to it, what will be more important to you a result that may get them close to, let's say, the top 10, seems implausible, top 6, or chemistry with the guys who are going to be on that team? What will factor more for you?
I don't know if I can single one thing out when it comes to what's important with my picks. I can say this. I don't know the specifics behind it. I know that there's been some that have done some math, but it's difficult. It's difficult to finish in the top 6, regardless, where you are. And when it comes to those elements, they're all important. I mean, I want camaraderie and chemistry in the team room. I want ownership by the team. I think it probably holds more true over there than over here. I want horses for courses. I want guys that can navigate Marco Simone in September, and caddies, because it's a hilly gem. So there's numerous factors. I mean, and shoot, we can get into stats too, probably, but I don't have all that data yet. But I'm going to rely on all of those factors when it comes to, and those gentlemen and those guys, whether it's my vice captains or those guys that make it on merit, to help me formulate my team.
Microphone 10.
Zach, to kind of
Hey,
go off of what
Rex.
Gary just said, Luke was in here yesterday and said that he has some clarity now when it comes to live players. Most of them have turned down their tour membership, so they can't be involved with the Ryder Cup. I would be curious, how much time, if at all, have you spent thinking about if a possible live player could either qualify or maybe be a pick for your team?
I haven't given. It's funny you say that, because I was talking about that just the other day with some of my vice captains. I mean, we're at a point right now where when it comes, it's not even a discussion item. I mean, we're trying to figure out, there's maybe a couple guys that have come close to securing their spot in the top 6, but when it comes to picks, it's not even on my radar. I haven't even, especially given, Rex, how many points are still out there, whether you're talking about major championships or elevated events or all the above. I think it'd be premature and almost irresponsible to go into that. I mean, I just don't, it's not on my radar right now.
Juan?
So, based on what you saw in the Golf National in Paris, no?
I'm sorry. Can you say that again? I'm sorry.
No, I was
Please.
saying it in French.
Yes, sir. You're good. You're good. You're doing great.
Based on what you saw in Paris. Okay?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So what do you expect the configuration or kind of the setup is going to be, or the adaptations from the European team to get some advantage?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
That subject has been approached within the confines of my team and the stat group that we use, the data crunching nerds, as I like to call them. I'm not one to go on assumptions. It's probably not a great thing. At the same time, if there's been any safe assumption or anything that's been kind of consistent every 4 years when we go across the pond, it's the setup. And when I say that, I mean usually it's actually, again, I keep using this word. It's difficult. I'd say it's pretty proper in the sense that it becomes very cliche. You have to hit fairways. It feels like the fairways kind of come in, the rough comes up. So it puts a really strong emphasis on the first shot. And then from there, obviously, the greens, given probably the consistency week in, week out of the European Tour versus the PGA Tour, they seem to be a little bit slower, maybe. Marco Simone has an ability to probably go both directions. I think that's a pretty cool, unique feature, is they can speed those jokers up pretty quick, and they can also slow them down if they want. Luke has that ability, which again is a really cool trait of the Ryder Cup. So I don't want to say I have safe expectations yet. I'll know more as time goes on. I did witness the Italian Open 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago. Help me out. And you could kind of tell that the rough was getting up there. And from what I could tell, some of the fairway widths and sight lines were slightly different than what I remember in September when I played it myself. But all of that, I think, is fantastic. I mean, that's what this tournament's all about. Is you can cater to your team, but you can also figure out what's just best at the end of the week for your team, whether it's here or there, and that's what that captain has as the home host.
Just a quick follow-up.
Sure.
So based on that, in looking at the calendar and the tournaments you have coming up, what would be the opportunities to get your team prepared for those conditions? Yeah.
Also a great question.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, no, I mean, well, this one I can answer easy, too. It's easy. I have something already in store and in plan. I've made it a priority, and I'm very grateful that the powers that be at the PGA of America have granted me that liberty in the sense that I'm taking the 12 guys that make my team to Rome 2 weeks prior to the event, 2.5 weeks prior to the event. So that way we get our feet on the grounds. They get their feet on the grounds, experience Marco Simone firsthand, and then when we leave and come back home for 2 weeks, they'll have at least, I think, a pretty realistic expectation as to what is required. I think it helps. I think that trip right there is going to be crucial. That's a strong word, but I think just key for a number of reasons. I mean, certainly chemistry and camaraderie and all that good stuff inside the locker room, but more than that, we all know that those that have played, we all know Monday through Thursday is pretty trying. There's a lot that goes on. And if we have any weather issues or just things get really congested and difficult and tight, they've already experienced it. So they don't have to push themselves immensely. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I just think now I wouldn't change Monday through Thursday. It's beautiful. It happens every 2 years, and it's fantastic, whether you're talking about the evenings or the days. But it's a priority for those guys to get on Marco Simone.
Thank you.
Alex on 2.
Historically, that's been a tough buy-in to get players to go over early, no matter if it was 2 weeks early or 2 months early or whatever it was. So what have you done to talk to 12 players that you don't even know who they are yet to convince them that they're going to actually come over? And will that be part of your process in regards to if you pick somebody or not, if they're willing to make that trip?
Oh, I see. Well, yeah. So, I mean, the only thing I can do right now is communicate that, right? I mean, communicate, one, that it's a priority to me, two, that it's a priority to Team USA, PGA of America, and then three, that put it on your radar, put it on your calendar. So I've done that. I don't know how far down the list I've gone, but I've done that to the guys. And I have not heard anything that says that no one's in support of that. So the first part of your question, it stems from what I've witnessed and experienced as a vice captain and as a player with these trips. Granted, Wisconsin is a lot easier to get to, but everybody made it a priority. There's certain things that come about, whether it's an injury or whatever it may be, that you just, it's a hurdle you can't get over, but that's okay. I mean, you can figure that out. But if you can get a high percentage of them there, that's massive. So in talking to Steve Stricker, in talking to Davis, and certainly Jimmy and Fred, that this has become a priority, and everybody's in full support.
Okay, and I had another question about
Sure.
vice captains.
Sure.
You have 3 vice captains. 2 of them have been former Ryder Cup captains. One of them has been a captain on the President's Cup for decades, it seems like. Where are the young guys? And is that something because you're waiting to see what happens before you decide to bring somebody on that's inexperienced who hasn't done this in the past?
Sure. Well, I don't know if I have 3 former captains.
Right.
And 1 non-former captain that has captained in another cup. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Yeah. So I have 4 guys.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the way I see it is this: I've got there's kind of a bunch of factors in there. Number one, I think it's proper for me and responsible for me to put the guys that have a really good chance of making this team around the guys they want to be around. Okay, that's number one. They want to be around these guys. Number 2, I respect all 4 of those guys for what they've done on the golf course and off and in these cups. And then I would say number 3, for me, having that wisdom and experience, good and bad, is something I know I can rely on. I mean, the most mundane of circumstances to the most heavy of circumstances, I can go to these guys and say, hey, what did you do here? Or what do you think about this? And, they're going to have at least some sort of morsel of wisdom, I think, that I can chew on. So that's all that. Now, going back to it, yes, I mean, I don't think it's a responsibility of mine to provide for the youth. it's a responsibility of mine to provide for future captains, regardless of age. I don't think that necessarily needs to be somebody young. I just think it's something. I still got one, and I'm going to keep him in my pocket. I don't know who that is. I'm just saying I'm going to keep that for the time being, and I think when things progress, it'll happen naturally, and we're going to formulate 5 vice captains that get along great, and those 5 vice captains are going to be wanted by the guys that have a really good chance of making the team.
Let's go to Mike 12, followed by 8 and 15.
Yeah, hi Zach. For the players not playing on the PGA Tour, are their performances in the majors this summer the best and the only way to judge their form?
Well, firsthand, yeah. I mean, I don't travel anywhere but the PGA Tour and the majors. Technically, I'm not in the U.S. Open, so that's going to be difficult, but I'm going to try to get in. I don't know. I mean, I haven't really gotten down to the stats and crunching of data and that sort of thing, so it's not really fair for me to say that's the only measurement. But I mean, I am in the golf circles. I know what's going on. I'm not oblivious to things. And the way I see it is these guys, every guy that wants to make the U.S. Ryder Cup team should try to want to make the top 6. So however that looks, you got to play good and earn your way onto that team, because I've been in both sides of that. It's not fun not being picked, and it's not fun waiting for that phone call to be picked unless you get it. It's a tough thing as a pro, but it's something you got to go through. So I want all those guys to try their best and try to make the team. I mean, and make it a priority.
So just on current form, do you think Dustin Johnson is among the top 12 American best players on form at the moment?
Really difficult for me to judge that. I mean, I don't know the golf courses they're playing. Never seen them. I'm not there on foot in person. I mean, you're talking about an individual whose resume is extremely deep and wide. He's, certainly in my generation, one of the best players I've ever competed against. But it's not fair for me to guess his true form or anybody's true form that I can't witness.
Zach, one of the themes heading over there to Italy will be the U.S. having a 30-year drought winning in Europe. Obviously, you've looked at that a lot, and obviously this team goes in there at 0-0. Mm-hmm. What would be some of your messaging there, and what seems to be some of the themes you've come up with as you look at the past?
Well, I'm a mind that's pretty simple. I love teams that go into places that haven't and probably shouldn't, but do. Okay? Number 1. Number 2, what a great opportunity to just go over there and show off. Number 3, and fully embrace what's difficult. That's what I've done my entire career. Embrace the opportunity that's presented, and that is, they're not going to be in your favor, and relish that, love that. I wouldn't have it any other way. I mean, this is why I'm here.
Given the quality of teams that have gone over there through the years, is it kind of an amazing stat as you look across sports?
Well, I mean, if you're just going to go based on just pure numbers, yeah, I mean, amazing, sure. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and say I'm overly surprised, but yeah, I mean, given the quality of American golf over the last so many years, yeah, it's pretty impressive as to what the European team has done. And I suspect that I'm confident knowing that the team that they're going to assemble is going to be willing to keep that going and wanting to keep that going. So it's going to be a very hard task, but again, one that I'm jacked for. I mean, still going to try to make my team. That sounds really, really outlandish. But, I'd love to have the opportunity to not pick me.
2, if you can. First, on the trip over there with these guys, every player nowadays is kind of their own traveling band of coaches and trainers and family, et cetera, et cetera. When you guys go over for this, pre-trip, just the 12, or how do you kind of envision this actually looking like?
Some of that specifics are still fluid. We're still not really concrete on what and who and how many, but all of what you just said, I can tell you, has been talked about and taken into full consideration. Especially, I mean, you got to look at the practical side of it, right? They're a week and a half coming off the Tour Championship, and well, I would suspect they are. Most of those guys are going to be around that field, right? and they're tired, and so you got to take all that. The beauty of it is there's 4 weeks between the Tour Championship and the Ryder Cup, so I'm confident knowing that these guys, again, I know they're making it a priority, so I know they'll take care of their bodies. But if there's anything that I can do along the way, I'm certainly going to give it its full attention.
And you mentioned that you're only physically present, obviously, at PGA Tour sites. Not only not seeing those guys in terms of their form, but also just talking to people. And I wonder if you're kind of making sure to, be in communication with guys who you're not actually speaking to and seeing on a regular basis, of just kind of, having a relationship, maintaining a relationship.
Sure. Well, I mean, I get to see them. Well, I guess technically 3 or 4 weeks a year, right? I mean, this year. So that part's difficult, but I mean, you're talking about a number of guys that are my friends. I would fully embrace the opportunity to speak with them if they want to chat with me. That'd be amazing. I'm an open book. They can call me. They have my number, et cetera, et cetera. So, I'm not going to sit here and say that I'm shutting that down. I mean, I am fully in as the Ryder Cup captain for the Team USA and whatever that looks like.
We'll wrap things up with Mike 14.
Zach, since you talked about Dustin, you saw Brooks at Augusta. Can you give an assessment of where you think his form is and where he's at in the equation?
Can you say that one more time? I'm sorry.
I said you talked about Dustin, given
Sure.
you saw Brooks at Augusta.
Yeah.
Can you give an assessment of where you think he's at?
Well, I haven't really seen where he's at since Augusta. I mean, he played really good that 1 week. But I mean, it's 1 week. I mean, I don't want to sit here and say that it's concrete. It's the only thing that we're going to be looking at. I mean, it's 1 week at a major venue at the Masters tournament. It's great. He played great. But there's a lot of golf. There's still a lot of golf between now and then. One of the factors that we've looked at over the years is what kind of form are the guys in when it gets close to the Tour Championship. I mean, that's, I think that'd be wise for me to look at. So I remember playing really well one spring, thinking, man, I got this. I'm a shoo-in, and I didn't make the team. So there's a lot of factors involved.
Thanks for your time, Zach.
My pleasure.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.